All right, final weekday show before the NFL Combine. SNL, Landry Locker, Cody Stoots with you. Subscribe on all podcast platforms as well as on the channel. We're pushing 3K in 2 months of time, and we appreciate everyone for riding along. We've talked about potential free agents to bring in. We've talked about draft picks. What about the Texans' actual players currently on the roster? Let's go through those guys, talk about the pros and cons, yay or nay. Would you like to bring back some of the current free agents that Nick Caserio, D'Amico Ryans are going to have to decide on?
I like run it back, or I'm good with that.
Okay. Run it back, or I'm good with that. And to kind of add to this, I think the Texans have done a pretty good job with D'Amico and Caserio. It's a two off-season sample size. I think they've done a good job of saying goodbye to guys at the right time. I actually think the news that Sheldon Rankins is already released kind of validates that. Jonathan Grenard had a good season, but they brought in Daniil Hunter, Azeez Al-Shire, Blake Cashman. I don't think that they did too bad of a job on that. Malik Collins, they wasn't a free agent, but they ended up getting rid of him and didn't really miss him too much on the interior. So
Kamari Lassiter, Steven Nelson.
Yeah, Kamari, the Steven Nelson decision, I think they've kind of played that perfect. So they've done a pretty good job of saying goodbye to some guys. Now, there are examples of bringing back guys that perhaps they couldn't, that maybe they've struggled with, or guys that they've extended a little bit earlier than they need to. But overall, it's an interesting body of work, and I don't think too many of these decisions, they don't have another Jonathan Grenard, Blake Cashman type of decision upon them. I think we're down a tier when it comes to the impact and the decision and the thought process that will go to bringing back some of your own free agents this year.
Yeah, there's not really, there's only a handful of even potential starters. And some of these guys will leave the Texans and probably won't even go be starters on other teams. But if you could keep a guy that's familiar in the building at a depth position, that takes one small thing off your shopping list that you have to go through over the course of the offseason. So you got to find 90 guys by the time training camp gets here. Some of these guys will be worth being some of the 90, and then they'll be on the 53. Some of these guys aren't worth being in the 90, and then some of these guys will be on the 90 but not make the 53.
Yeah, let's just start right off the top. Probably the most polarizing one, Stefon Diggs. You're going to have the dead cap no matter what. That deadline is passed. For me, I'm good on that. I'm good on that. I think they've made the decision with Stefon Diggs. He's coming off a torn ACL. He's older. The wide receiver market's pretty favorable, and I think that they can address and get a better player for a number of reasons in the veteran market, and then hopefully they hit on a rookie. But with the Stefon Diggs, I'm passing on that.
I'm good on that as well. I just don't know how you can build this wide receiver room and not have a player that you can rely on in the lead up to the season. Stefon Diggs is probably not going to be ready for a good portion of the offseason and preseason activities. And so you're going to put in a brand new offense with a new offensive coordinator, and he's not going to be available for OTAs. He's not going to be available for mini camps. His recovery from his injury might affect his availability in training camp. And you need to be depending on somebody at the wide receiver position, multiple players. I just don't know that you can depend on Stefon Diggs, and he may not be ready in time or up to speed in time to be anywhere close to when the Texans need him, which is day one, week one of the NFL season. So for that reason, like it's Shark Tank, I'm out.
Yeah, I'm out too. I'm out on Diggs.
All right. Wide receiver, Robert Woods. I feel like we were good on that last offseason, and he somehow still made the team.
So the Woods thing's interesting because, do you want Robert Woods to be your number 3 receiver in any given scenario? The answer would be no.
No.
You definitely don't want that. The health is a big concern lately. You can kind of see the age wearing down. A couple times where he was a little bit loose with the football this year as well. I think the only reason that Robert Woods looks so solid is because they've done a poor job of developing the younger guys that could perhaps provide you enough upside. And the reason why they think Robert Woods is so solid and so like dependable is, well, Steven Sims didn't even know when to film a punt to field a punt when he was with the Texans. Xavier Hutchinson and John Mechie haven't really developed as receivers, and two other guys got hurt. So I think you got to improve the whole wide receiver room, and you get to a point where Robert Woods doesn't look as dependable. I think that's one of the goals. The other thing is, from the other perspective, I mean, what are we talking? Veteran minimum if he still wants to play? I don't know that there's anyone else that wants to sign Robert Woods. So if push comes to shove and late in the process, Robert Woods wants to play football. Okay, but I don't think it should be any investment, and I think it should be like a last ditch, last second effort type of thing. He was actually kind of a beneficiary of the bad wide receiver room.
Yeah, break glass in case of emergency contract for, he made some pretty decent money last year. He made like, I think over $7 million last year, but that's not the contract he's getting. And yeah, wide receiver 6 guy that you got to pivot to because somebody else wasn't available in the process and he's low on the depth chart. Sure. But I'm ready to get ready to get younger.
No, thanks.
Defensive tackle Foloronsu Foley Fatakasi. Landry.
Why not? I mean, if they want to bring him back, cool. I like what he does when he's on the field. I think it's kind of unsung. Ideally, you'd like him to be kind of a rotational guy, but again, I think it's going to be extra cheap. If they want to bring back Fatakasi, there's a lot bigger battles to fight than pushing back on this. I would be okay with this.
He made over $5 million last year. I do wonder with the injuries from this previous season, if you could then get him even at a discounted rate from what you paid him last year and even save a few bucks and bring back a player that knows exactly what his role is, knows the defense. I'm interested. I wouldn't prioritize it, but I'm pretty interested in it. I'd be okay with running it back with Foley Fatakasi. This is going to be the easiest. I'm good on that. Of any one of the players that we bring up here. Cornerback Jeff Okudah. So I don't want to have a long discussion about Jeff Okudah because nobody wants him back. But they do need a backup outside cornerback. Like they've got to find that player somewhere. Like obviously Derek Stingley, Kamari Lassiter, and in a perfect world, they're not coming off the field ever, or they're coming off the field because you're up by 30. So you do need to find that player. Lassiter had a couple of concussions last year. Got dinged a little bit on the shoulder or
concussion and shoulder. Yeah.
Got the shoulder and the concussion situation that had him miss a handful of games. And then they kind of just, it wasn't even duct tape and bubble gum. It was D'Angelo Ross and Jeff Okudah, and it just didn't look good. But they do need that third cornerback, that backup outside guy, but it's not going to be Jeff Okudah.
Yeah, I think Okudah last year, initially it was, could he turn into CB2? Could he be a Steven Nelson replacement? He can't hold Steven Nelson's jock. And I know I give Steven Nelson a hard time. I always give him credit for his contributions, especially in 2023. But any thought that Jeff Okudah would be able to be Steven Nelson, that's a joke, to be honest with you. So guys like Jeff Okudah, Henderson, guys that you bring in, if they're competing to be, number 3 through 5 corners on your roster, I think that's fine. But that wasn't initially what we actually thought Okudah was going to be. And quite frankly, he was short of anything that you can imagine. You can do a lot better than Jeff Okudah. He's probably going to be on his 4th team in a half decade next season, assuming that someone picks him up. And there's a reason why.
Made nearly $5 million last year.
Good for him.
Defensive end Derek Barnett. Run it back with Derek Barnett. I like him. He scored more touchdowns than John Mechie did.
That's your guy.
Run it back with Derek Barnett. There's still juice. There's still juice to squeeze there.
I'm okay with it, but I do think they could find another Derek Barnett. So if they, I think that Derek Barnett was solid here, but he was on the market for a reason. I like his game. I like what he brings. But I also like their ability to find Derek Barnett's and develop Derek Barnett's. So yeah, I'm okay with this, but I'm also okay if you say goodbye, because I think it's one of their skills is finding rotational guys on the D line. So I could take or leave this. It doesn't hurt that he had a couple of highlight plays that I think are, if you were putting together a highlight tape of the top 10 plays of the Texans season, he would be one of maybe 2 or 3 guys who would have multiple plays on that top 10 list. So that doesn't hurt when it comes to the approval rating of fans. But I'm a fan of what they did with Derek Barnett, how they used him, and how he was able to take advantage of the opportunities that they gave him.
I did not realize the contract he signed last year was so cheap. $2 million last year. If you could spend, let's call it $6 million, $7 million on Fatukasi and Barnett coming back when they cost you more than that last year, yeah, go ahead and do it.
And I don't pretend to know the guy personally or anything like that. I don't think anyone knows Derek Barnett personally.
I think he talked once this year.
Yeah, and he's just very serious. But he strikes me as a guy who, if he's comfortable, I don't know if he is or not, but if he's comfortable, I think he's just going to want to stay put and just go about his business and not really I don't think he's going to be penny pinching where this team's offering, a few extra $100,000 and I can go here. I think he strikes me as someone who lives a very simple, responsible, comfortable life. And if he can maintain that and play football while talking to as few people as possible, I think Derek Barnett might be happy.
He's like, I don't want to change the electricity to another provider. I'm staying.
Yeah.
I'm staying.
Yeah.
All right. Linebacker Neville Hewitt, Landry.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's one of your core special teams guys. I mean, I think Neville Hewitt, I think he showed last year that when called upon in emergency situations, he's capable of filling in at linebacker. I think he grew as a complete football player last year. I think as a special teams guy, I think he's one of your core guys. I think he's one of a few guys that is one of your core special teamers. And the job he did where, it was him and Hansen that had to fill in a little when Aziz and Christian Harris were out. I thought he did a hell of a job. So I think Neville Hewitt, if you can give him a couple years or something like that, I'm good with this. When you talk about that third phase, I don't know too many players. If you ask Frank Ross to power rank the most important special teams guys, I don't know how many players come before Neville Hewitt.
Yeah, I like the special teams as a depth linebacker that, hopefully with some luck, he really doesn't have to see the field as a linebacker this year, because if Harris could be healthy for a season and you get a healthy Aziz, healthy Henry Toto, you probably don't need to see Neville Hewitt on the field all that much. So I like him, and unless there's the next Neville Hewitt out there, which it doesn't seem like
there could be. It just seems like he's one of those core special teamers that, I mean, you just don't want to get rid of. I thought he did a good job last year.
Run it back. Safety Eric Murray.
I kind of want to move past it, but I do want to say, I think the job that Eric Murray did, going from being one of the bigger disappointments and kind of one of the contracts that you point to when you talk about the incompetence of the POS, person of service, Jack Easterby, Bill O'Brien era, where they paid him like he was a starting caliber safety. The way that he kind of transformed into being a solid role player, I thought he did a good job. I just think you can find Eric Murray's on the street, and you can probably find guys that are a little bit better than Eric Murray. I could see them wanting to bring him back as a reserve, because I think he's kind of like just one of those guys that will never go away. But it's a no for me. But if they want to bring him back and continue to evolve this Eric Murray survival skills, like if he were on the show Survivor, he's at least making the money. Like he's at least making the final 3. I think he's been one of the biggest survivors that I've ever witnessed in my time covering this team. And he seems like a guy that they like culture-wise as well. And he could fall into the value in 2 out of 3 phases. So
going through and watching his contract history and like the money he made when he was signed as the big investment from the Bill O'Brien Brain Trust, and then the contract adjustments since, and like his money gets lower and lower every year. But we thought he was going to be sort of a leaky part of the defense when he had to start and play a lot more. And he wasn't nearly as leaky on the back end as we thought. I will say that backup safety spot, it's an important spot because Jimmy Ward's durability is just, it's not there.
Yeah.
And you're gonna need, like, inevitably you will probably need somebody to fill in for Jimmy Ward. So if it is Eric Murray,
that's a good point, because when you're like, on one hand you say he's a valuable reserve safety, but on the other hand you say, well, reserve safety on this team basically needs to be evaluated as a starter. And there were games, I think the second Indy game, he had a hell of a ball game.
yes,
Probably the best game of his Texans tenure. And then there were other times where he just looked completely lost in coverage, and he was seeked out. But I like the job, and I want to respect the job that Eric Murray did the last couple of years of establishing himself as a return on investment, good, solid football player, because nobody was harder on him than me when they signed him. I think my line was, what is an Eric Murray? And I think I said that every day on the flagship station. Eric Murray, solid depth football player. We found out.
Zach with a super chat. He wants to say, thanks for all the hard work and time spent on giving us the updates. Y'all are goated for life. And then it's three flexes and 3 100s. Thank you, Zach.
Thank you.
Appreciate the super chat. We appreciate everybody watching. And hey, there's plenty more coming next week. We're going to be live in Indianapolis at the NFL Scouting Combine. Defensive tackle Mario Edwards. Run it back, or I'm good on that?
I'm good on that. I like what he did last year. I mean, he's been playing for 10 years in the NFL now. So, I mean, it's again, this goes back to the Derek Barnett theory that I discussed, where I think they can find Derek Barnett's. I think they can find Mario Edwards. I think Mario Edwards is kind of a representation of what they can do. I like the guy, but I think that they can do a good job of finding someone who can do what Mario Edwards did. They did a good job of, we talked about the Steven Nelson philosophy, where I think they did a good job of maximizing what they could in the corner area. I think this is kind of the same type of situation with Mario Edwards, where wasn't as impressive as what Nelson did, but they knew when to punt on Steven Nelson. Probably the same thing, same type of vibe with Mario Edwards, he did a good job.
My thing about Mario Edwards is he was solid last year as a defensive end that learned to play defensive tackle. Is it better to maybe go get a defensive tackle who just has defensive tackle background and maybe, you get more out of that rotational piece?
Yeah, it was. I mean, he had an interesting run, because he was kind of one of the camp heroes. I would say he was an all camp teamer, and then
we found out why.
Yeah, and then we found out. Well, come on, but then we found out
because he's going against the Texans' interior offensive line. That's why he looked good.
Oh, I thought you were talking about his Popeye spinach, like his performance increase. Okay, I thought you were saying like because he got popped from using the Addy.
Him and Fadakasi looked like they were Aaron Donald and Casey Hampton out there. Like,
yeah, but he got. But he got the thing about Mario Edwards that I think is that he kind of got thrown to that position because of the Autry suspension. So sure. he was hot and ready to do whatever they asked. So I thought he did a good job.
All right, this next player, I think he's going to say I'm good on that with the Houston Texans. Guard Kendrick Green.
Yeah, I'm surprised he made it through the season, to be honest with you. You could tell how miserable he was, and you could tell that they tried to do everything possible to avoid playing Kendrick Green. Like it was a very, very strong effort to avoid playing Kendrick Green. I would say this is going to be a mutual. I'm good on that.
They got to let him take that assault bike home. He basically had his name on that. Like if some people you go to workout classes, everybody's got a spot. Kendrick Green had a spot. It was on the assault bike over there.
Yeah, and it just looked like, it looked like a guy, like a sweaty, like all the ass sweat on the exercise bike. He just leaves it there for the next person. He's not cleaning it up. He's just pissed off, like foaming at the mouth, spit coming out, just like dirtying up the bike,
slamming his helmet when he doesn't get put in.
Yeah. Kendrick Green. I think that's a mutual bye-bye.
Tim had a good question that I want to get to. We'll get to the rest of these names here in just a second. He said, question for the GOATs. Does the lack of salary cap actually play to Caserio's strength, which is indeed the pivot game?
See, now that's someone who listens to this show. You can tell. And thank you very much, Tim. Much appreciation for the question. I think it could. And I think that they've kind of, and this is unfortunate to say, I think they got a little bit reckless in some areas with money during CJ's rookie contract, where they were extending guys that I don't think they would extend under other circumstances, or they wouldn't even attempt to extend and do the necessary, which what Stoots would say is always possible manufacturing of the salary cap. So I do think once they tighten up, I think it might actually play to the strengths. I think that's an excellent point by him. And I do see that as potentially a possibility.
Yeah, it's a good question by Tim. And look, if all of a sudden one of the best players on the team last year was a pivot. They got outbid on Saquon Barkley, or Barkley really wanted to play in Philly, however you want to phrase it. And then they pivoted to Joe Mixon, and they did a really good job with that. So
they pivot very well.
Yep. Defensive tackle Kurt Heinisch, Landry, run it back, or I'm good on that.
Hey, come to camp and try to make the team. I mean, it seems like the theme. I think he has how many years? He's going to be like a minimum guy. So if you want to have him just a little bit,
I'm good.
There you go.
Tommy Togiai was making him a healthy scratch at the end of the year. So
this is true.
I'm good on that. Safety MJ Stewart. I can't tell you one thing that I know for sure MJ Stewart did last season. There's not like a play where I'm like, yeah, he did that. So I guess special teams core guy, familiar with how you do things. He's not getting on the field.
They like him, man.
They
like him a lot.
I'd love to tell you I got a strong opinion on MJ Stewart. I actually don't.
I don't, but they always mention it. They always go out of the way to mention him.
All right. Well,
I could see him being another one just like Heinisch, where 1 year minimum deal, come try to make the team.
Okay.
This ain't like Heinisch. Nobody wants Kurt Heinisch. Here you go. 1 year deal. Try to make the squad. MJ Stewart, 1 year deal. Try to make the squad. Not much guaranteed money. Come on down. Sure.
Like that. Okay.
Nobody wants them.
Run it back, or I'm good on that with quarterback Case Keenum. The coaching staff got announced, Landry. No Case Keenum on the coaching staff.
Not yet. I'm keeping a close eye on. I think there's a chance that at training camp or this summer or in the near future, we find out that Case Keenum is going to be a coach on the Texans staff. That would be my guess. Look, I don't know when this guy's going to quit playing football. It's time. It's time. He loves football. He wants to be around football. Get to your inevitable place in the next phase where you're a coach, because you're not going to make this roster. Davis Mills is the backup. Right. You don't need Case Keenum, and you're not going to make another roster. I know he's been counted out his whole life. It's time. Good career, great job, great representation. If every athlete in the history of the world maximized their potential like Case Keenum, there would be no underachievers. So God bless you. If he does try to play football, I'm good on that. I would not be surprised if he's on the coaching staff by mid-August.
I am fascinated to find out what Case Keenum's coaching desires are. If he wants to be a head coach of the NFL one day, I'd believe it. The road's got to start probably and continue all the way through the NFL. But I could also see Case Keenum being a 7-time state champion in high school. I could also see him being just a grinder that grinds his way through a lot of college football and ends up as a college football coach too. So nothing would surprise me with Case Keenum's coaching career.
Yeah, it's just going to involve pigskin in some way, shape, or form.
I would be surprised if the playing career continued, though.
Yeah, I mean, that's not even going to be his choice.
Linebacker Dell Phillips.
I don't know. I mean, this is another guy they seem to like, and I'm like, okay, like you look up at practice and you see him, and like he's the guy. I'll just be honest. I'll be full transparent. Like he's a guy that multiple times I've had to like double check the roster and say who the hell is that out there? Like who is that? Who is that? Like he's always there. Like not around the ball or anything. He's just there. I don't know. I've heard them like unsolicited mention him a couple times. I could live or the same thing. 1 year minimum deal. Let's see what happens. But he's just the guy that's there.
Made $2.5 million last year.
For what?
Special teams.
Maybe he's really good at it. I don't know.
Well, we're talking about special teams next with this next person. Defensive back Chris Boyd.
Sure.
No, I'm good on that.
Sure.
I'm good on that. We cannot have
1 year deal. Come on.
No, sorry. The playoff game fully, totally, wholly soured me on Chris Boyd.
Well, you already knew he was kind of not the brightest, but the thing that bothered me about that with Chris Boyd is I've kind of gotten like secondhand accounts of it. And I think he almost has convinced himself that because he wasn't pushing Frank Ross out of anger, that it somehow like makes it any less stupid that he A, stripped the football, B, walked away from the play before the ball was recovered, C, celebrated by throwing his helmet and getting a 15-yard penalty, and then D, 30 seconds later, didn't even know what was going on and was trying to obnoxiously, aggressively celebrate with his head coach, who was mad that he performed tasks A through C. So I'm fine. If I think having a screw loose on special teams is not the worst thing. I will say, like, this isn't like an MJ Stewart, Delshawn Phillips situation where I don't like see the impact. This guy's in on every special teams play, dude. Like he really is. He's wired up. He's got a screw loose. I would be fine with bringing back Chris Boyd on a 1 year deal. I do hate that the dumbassery that he displayed, he somehow thinks is any less displayed dumbassery just because he might not have been pushing Frank Ross and trying to fight him. I think you can make a case that actually makes it dumber than the latter.
I'm good on that. Find me the next Chris Boyd. I'm good on that. I'll take the next Chris Boyd. Just like I'll take the next Dare Ogunbowale. I'm good on Dare Ogunbowale. This is a player that
lifetime contract.
This is a player that won't go away.
Same thing about Case Keenum with Dare Ogunbowale, man. Like you look at how long he's been around and how long of an NFL career he's put out for the type of player he is. Salute to Dare Ogunbowale. He has maximized every ounce of God-given ability that he has. My thing is this. I know he had the 2-yard touchdown catch. I know that he's kind of like the reliable guy. Let's just find someone that's reliable that has a little bit more upside than Dare Ogunbowale. I don't. It's roster space is too valuable. But I will say this: I would not be surprised if he got a lifetime contract this offseason, because you talk about guys that they like. They love Dare Ogunbowale, rightfully so. Good dude. Again, everything I said right there is true, but it's been a long time.
I do wonder when the experience can't outweigh what the player is capable of doing. Like, I know he knows what to do is like he has the correct special teams alignment and this and so on. So just find me somebody else that does his job that's got a little bit more juice to him.
Dare Ogunbowale is like the guy, like you go to high school and everybody in high school, like even in his high school, thinks he was just sorry as hell. This guy sucks. He's overrated. And then you look up 10 years later and he's been in the NFL. Everybody at college said this guy was sorry as hell. And you look up and he's one of the team captain at Wisconsin or whatever. Like, he's that dude. Like, I'm sure, but he just maintained. Coaches love him. I would be fine getting someone with more upside that at the bare minimum knows what the hell to do. I don't know that they can quit him. Do you think they can quit him?
It's not going to surprise me if Dare Gumbawale is on the team. Let me just
10-year deal.
10-year deal. Just, I mean, undrafted in 2017 and still playing in the league, and he's been on a roster since the latter part of 2017. So it's a great job by him.
Came in the league the same year as Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson.
Yeah. Yeah. 4 years at Wisconsin. He played with some ballers at Wisconsin too.
Yeah. And he's outlasted all of them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. That's a good point. Speaking of outlasted, this is the king outlasting everybody. Has he finally seen the end? The legend. Legendary stud, John Weeks, or long snapper, depending on which one you want to do it.
He did not text me back when I asked him.
No. Oh, no.
First time he hasn't texted me back.
Oh, no.
In our however long time knowing each other. I mean, and this is a guy who one time when I said I wanted to have like a fundraiser, he gave me a grill. He took me to his storage unit. He gave me a grill and I got to give it away. Yeah. This is my boy, man. This is my guy. Like my best friend in elementary. She ended up marrying one of his good friends at Baylor. Like, this is my boy. I never asked him about, anything going on in football or anything, but hey, how you feeling? How's the, what's going on? I just said, hey, are we gonna have you beat out a youngin and get in camp? And I didn't get a response. So,
damn.
Yeah. I don't know.
If he wants to come back.
It's close to that time, though. It's close to that time.
I wonder if he wants to come back. Like, it's one of those things like it would be nobody would fault John Weeks if he wanted to say, yeah, they got the young guy because they knew I wasn't coming back.
So my thing is that I don't know how to measure this. Like, I don't know how to measure this. Like whenever, like,
there's probably only one human there's probably only two guys that know how to measure it. It's probably like, John Weeks and Frank Ross.
Because I've heard Weeks talk about like his velo, and I think his velo is like the same. Like it's always it's like he's actually done a good job of maintaining his velo on snaps, but they can't line up over you, so it's not like you're really blocking. I didn't see him like stick out in coverage. Like it's funny when you see him running next to all these physical freaks, sometimes seeing him, but I didn't feel like he was like minimized or anything like that. So like, I can say that Case Keenum has lost a step. I can say that, player at this position has lost a step. I don't know how to measure if Weeks has lost a step or not. I have no clue.
Well, I don't either. Again, if he wants to come back and hold off a youngster again, be my guest. The door would be open. There have been guys that are the 90th guy in training camp that have less of a chance to make the roster than Weeks in a long snapper battle.
We're going through the Texans free agent. It is SNL. Landry, Locker, Cody, Stoots with you. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Tonight on the Locker Room, I'm going over Caserio's 5 worst moves. We went over the best yesterday. We're going to go over his 5 worst moves. Talk about the other stuff going on as well.
I think I found your 5th one, by the way.
Yeah, there's been a lot of suggestions for it.
I got one that I bet nobody suggested yet.
Okay, well, I look forward to this.
Okay, I'll tell you in a little while. Jacob has a super chat. He says, running back room suggestion, keep Mixon, cut the rest.
Not bad.
Yeah, well, it wouldn't hurt my feelings.
Pierce is in the last year, though, so you can keep him around and bring him to camp and see what's going on.
Told me Damian Pierce was RB4 kick returner. I'd live with it.
I'll take it.
I'd live with it. Okay, some of these names, Jerry Hughes.
How did he make it this year?
because DeMeco Ryans. Well, the Danico Autry thing, and then DeMeco Ryans, he loves that hockey change on the defensive line, 4 in, 4 out. So
good for Jerry, man. He's had an awesome career. He's had an awesome career. Awesome family, local, family very passionate about Houston sports and everything like that. I remember Jerry at TCU, the Texas Football Mag, Gary Patterson type of dude, right when they started turning it around. And there was talk about, man, is this guy undersized, blah, blah, blah. And then he's done a great job. He's had a hell of a career. Might be time to hang it up, but man, even just lasting this extra year, I think he should be beyond proud of himself.
Well, and I think his first year on the team with Will Anderson, so 2023 is really important for Will Anderson if you listen to him talk about Jerry Hughes, but probably can find the new Jerry Hughes. Miles Bryant, cornerback.
He's better than Okudah. Like
he is better. He is better than Okudah. How did he? Yeah, he is better.
Like
than
at camp, it looked like, hey, this guy might be the nickel guy, and then he kind of just disappears on the inactive list, and then you kind of see him play late in the season. You're like, all right, it's not ideal, but it's better. It's better than what they were getting from Okudah. Yeah. Why not? Like, I mean, if they, I'm not saying that you sit there and say, oh, we're bringing back Miles Bryant. We've addressed our 3-4 corner, but I mean, he was fine. Like I didn't have an issue with Miles Bryant. He's better than Okudah, and he was better than Henderson.
As a depth defensive back, it's not a bad player to have. Devin White, linebacker.
I don't know what he wants to do. I don't like. Has he accepted that he's a depth guy? I'm
good on that.
If he wants a 1-year deal, fine. But I don't know.
If go find me
1 year, sure.
Go find me a 7th round linebacker or an undrafted free agent linebacker and have them on there and give them the chance.
Yeah, he didn't really separate himself from Hewitt or Hansen or anything like that. Like it's not like he stuck out as
doesn't play special teams
linebacker. Yeah, and he's not really a special teamer. It was worth bringing in, and he did a good job. It was a good contribution.
They played him on like 3 days being in the building. Like he played, like they had to play him because of injuries.
Like when you talk about, and when the move was made, I think the 4 words that were used were low risk, high reward. I would say you didn't get the high reward, but I mean, I think you got a little bit above the low risk. I mean, he lasted the whole season, and you got some time from him. So yeah, we can say adios.
Tight end Irv Smith.
Bye-bye.
Good on that.
Bye-bye.
Cornerback Kadar Holman. If he hadn't had a serious knee injury, I guess like depth player, but he's coming off a serious knee injury. You're looking for the next Kadar Holman. You're not trying to bring back the current Kadar Holman. Tackle Zach Thomas.
So old.
That is a great question that I don't know the answer to.
Kadar Holman is like, he was born in 94, which makes him how old?
He's 30.
Okay, he's 30 years old.
He doesn't look 30.
Dude, look at this. I got the share screen. I was like, who is this old guy? Look at that. When I saw him in the locker room, I was like, man, is that a new coach? He looks old, man.
I feel bad because I feel like he got roughed up at a couple of those special teams reps. Remember when he got like he did the splits and everybody landed on him, and then ultimately he had the serious knee injury that finished his season. So maybe if he wasn't coming off a serious knee injury, you know. Tackle Zach Thomas. I didn't even spell his name right. He could walk in this room and I would say, "Hey, I'm Landry. What's your name?" I don't. Come on, you know what he looks like? He looks like the guy from the Rudolph claymation. He looks like Yukon Cornelius.
I don't even know who that is. I don't even know who that is.
Yeah, you do. Linebacker Jake Hansen.
Yeah, he's a good special teamer. I'd be down with
teamer. He played pretty well the time that they called upon him. I'm fine with it. Tight end / fullback Dalton Keene. He got a paycheck this year. He was on IR all year.
Whatever.
I'm good on that.
We're fine.
And I saved Landry of the 25 free agents that the Houston Texans have. I saved the one that matters the most to you for last.
Okay.
Tight end Tegan Quateriano. I know Landry wants him back, but I'm good on that.
This might be a Kaylee revival. I thought I'd quit this. I thought I'd quit this Quateriano train, and I thought maybe we were going to get one last-ditched Hail Mary effort in the playoff game in Kansas City. He ended up inactive. Imagine that. But I got to tell you, man, Nick Caley, what does he say? What does Nick Caley say?
I like tight ends.
Yes, he does. And Tegan Quinteriano is a tight end. This might be his reclamation project here.
I'm good on that. I am good on that. I would legitimately take the top 15 tight ends drafted in this upcoming draft over Tegan Quinteriano. Maybe the top 20 if they draft 20 tight ends. Like, I'm talking guys that Daniel Jeremiah hadn't heard of. I'll take them over Tegan Quinteriano. Chase, what are you doing, Chase?
He's with me, man. There's just a glimmer of hope there, man. Just a glimmer.
Oh, man.
Bring him to camp. See what goes on.
And so this is not a Texans free agent, but the guy became a free agent today. Sheldon Rankins, run it back, or I'm good on that.
No, we're good.
Okay. Yeah, it feels like it fell off pretty quick there for Cincinnati.
Can't stay healthy. I think this makes the Texans look good. Like when you say bye-bye to a player and he gets released, what are we? 10 months, 9 months after signing his contract. I think you've done a pretty good. I think it shows that you did a pretty good job of handling and deciding in that situation. And you got a Tim Settle for 2 years, $6 million, and so I think was it 6? Yeah.
It's another one of those. It's another one of those pivots. I mean, they were reportedly in and came up short a couple $1 million. The next thing you know, they had to pivot and they ended up with Tim Settle, and it worked out okay.
Yeah. So the Sheldon Rankins thing, I think actually it brings them a little bit of credibility when it comes to making decisions at this point.
I'm proud that we did not have that many just like hold on to your own things, because I feel like sometimes you can feel a little bit stronger about some of the guys that are on the team. I feel like we didn't really hold on to too many players that other people wouldn't have held on to.
Well, and I also think they have kind of a churn factor now where they can, I mean, they're in a position where at the very least they can churn the roster at a,
when you trust
at
the
a
coaching
decent level.
staff.
Yeah, I think it's an appealing place to play. I think there's a handful, maybe a handful of teams where players would perhaps rather go than here. But when it comes to like picking free agents, like let's just say you're talking about the low level guys, and that's for the most part what we talked about was low level free agents. Like I think the factors like the state income tax comes into play. Obviously, the success of the team, the situation, the layout of the roster. And I think they possess a lot of those advantages. I don't think there's a Texans tax anymore. There used to be a Texans tax. Now there's kind of there was a Jags tax too. I think there's a Tennessee tax right now. I think Tennessee gets taxed when they sign free agents. Like you have to have the highest offer. I think the Texans have at least progressed to where it's an appealing enough spot to where there's a lot of opportunity to upgrade from like some of the players that we discuss in that caliber of player.
I very much agree with you. And I trust Nick Caserio to find project players that D'Amico Ryans and his staff can then draw the best out of those players. And I could not have said that about very many previous coaching staffs. Landry, you and I have talked about this a couple of times, so the people have seen us talk about this. The Jaguars' pictures of their general managers are always.
Is that a bit, or are they trying to be serious?
I think they're trying to be serious, but this is Tony Baselli with James Gladstone.
Scroll through their whole media so people can get a better idea. Just go to the Jags Twitter and scroll through their whole media. Okay. I was going to do this tonight on the stream. I didn't even tell you. But it feels like you're just as fascinated by this bit. But just go to Jaguars, click on media, and then scroll down. It's like their whole process from coach to GM has just been a whole like planned, unplanned, like the basic bitch Instagrams. Like, look at this. This is how they announce the interviews. That's the Gladstone hire. That's the Gladstone interview.
Oh, there's another
interview.
guy.
Yeah, there's their interview. There's the goofball. There you go again. There's another interview. So they're like taking a picture of him walking in. There's another one. Like, what are they doing? Are they joking, or is this supposed? There you go again. There's another one. This is like a bit at this point. with what they're doing with their interview process, like these pictures. I don't know what the hell's going on.
So they landed on the kid with the weird photo from a few weeks ago. Remember?
Yeah.
The one that looked like he was doing this from
James Gladstone. He did his thing.
McVay's crew.
Yeah, good for him.
So this is I know you love when media people assign success to like other members of the coaching staff of the front office. So Jordan Rodriguez, who does the Athletic Rams coverage, claims that some, if not all of the draft success from the past 2 seasons is due to James Gladstone's involvement with the Rams.
Okay. I mean, like you're talking like Verse, Puka,
Fisk,
all that. Yeah.
So,
okay. Good for him, man.
Now he's over in Jacksonville.
Good for him.
They kind of make it seem like Tony Baselli's running everything, though.
Kinda. He's the one that they're taking the picture with the GMs. What do you mean, kind of? So, like there's no kind of about it. Like like it's all literally Tony Baselli talking to him. They know kind of.
But like, is Tony Baselli actually the GM? Is Tony Baselli the guy like calling all the shots now?
He's got something to do with it. I mean, they can't quit him. So
Baselli had one of the most legendary. I think you were in the car with me. He had one of the most legendary national football broadcast calls. The Dolphins just couldn't do anything at quarterback in the playoffs against the Steelers, and Baselli was every play that they did not throw the ball, even though their quarterback situation sucked. He was like, I can't believe they're not throwing the ball. This is pathetic playoff football.
He was awesome, dude, on radio. Like, I remember that was moronic. Like he would always, I shadowed him one time early in my career. It was for Westwood One, and they like give you small check to like shadow or just basically shadow the sideline guy or be up in the press box with the broadcast team. Man, he was hilarious. Like he's pretty passionate about football. I don't know whether he knows what the hell he's doing when hiring a GM. The pictures though,
are
terrible.
I mean, I think they're great. I think the Jaguars should keep doing them.
What a lucky GM though. I mean, he's coming into a situation where, assuming that he does get to do what he did, I mean, he's got the number 5 overall pick. Jacksonville, I know it's cool to like point at a team and say, like, when you're the Texans and you're a Texans fan and you develop a hate for the Jags, to like point at them and say that's one of the most ass teams in the league or whatever. But they're lucky that they still have a talented enough team to compete for the division. Like when healthy, I think we would agree with that. Like they I mean, if they're appropriately coached, and they have one of the rising stars in the league, definitely in the AFC South, and Brian Thomas. Like, I don't think it would surprise anyone if he's not a top 5, 8 wide receiver in the league next year. But they're very lucky because they bottom down instead of being in like that 7-9, or 7-10, 8-9 range. So they actually lucked out there.
Well, their whole organization is built on, we're going to get the people that don't know what they're doing out of here. We're going to get people that we do know that we think are going to be able to know what they're doing in here. And that's going to make what we do have in the building better. So, like, I mean, Liam Cohen as their head coach, and then I guess Baselli and Gladstone and whoever the hell else as the brain trust, better than Trent Baalke.
Yeah, they held on to that too long, but I mean, they're close. I mean, they're as close to the Texans as the Texans are to, like Buffalo or Kansas City. I mean, so it's all bets are off, especially if they hit with that number 5 pick, and who knows what they're going to do. I don't know.
I would, I'd draft the Arizona wide receiver and just have a freaking wide receiver monster group.
They've said they're open to that.
Tet McMillan from Arizona.
Yeah, they've said they're open to that.
The locker room tonight, 10 o'clock, the 5 worst.
We're going back to 10:30.
Back to 10:30?
There's too many sporting events. Like I tried to, we tried to go 2 weeks, 10. It's been 10:30 for 2 years. there's still like the hockey game was on yesterday that everyone was acting like they were into. And then like there's always a basketball game or something. So I'm going to respect all sporting events because it is sports fans. And I'm just going to allow the muscle memory to not disappear and just go back to what we've been doing.
All right, back to 10:30. So the 5 worst Nick Caserio moves with 5 2
Yeah, what was your suggestion for 5?
My suggestion is when he didn't trade Brandon Cooks to the Cowboys for a
I already have that.
You have that on there?
But yeah, it's on my layout. That was actually it's funny. Let me see if I can pull this up.
Damn, I thought I had like a.
No, I'm just gonna prove. I'm not just saying that. I'm not pulling a LeBron James where he said that was one of my favorite things. All right, so I'm entering my own studio. This might be weird. Hold on.
Okay. If the internet crashes, Landry did it.
Yeah, so I just clicked it right here. So I had this. All right. Yeah, so here's the studio. And you can see the 5 right there.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so I had that on there too. You can see the top 5 right there. We can discuss whatever. But a little sneak peek.
Okay, so
of what's to come. But I mean the top 4 I thought were relatively kind of common. We can stay around the offensive line and figure some stuff out there.
Yeah. Honorable mentions will be interesting to see what didn't make the top 5, so that'd be good.
Yeah, I mean Diggs is up there. I mean, and I know it's hindsight. I think the benefit of hindsight, I think there's some nuance to it. Some people say hindsight's 20/20. It is if you're a simp, but I think there is some nuance to the hindsight whenever you're evaluating a move. And I recall the handling of that contract immediately being criticized by many. Not all, but I remember it immediately being criticized by many, praised by some. Just trading for Diggs, that was immediately criticized. I didn't think it was fully grasped that they basically traded back 19 spots and knew what they were going to do with the pick. But it's not like a move like, for instance, like the Jets drafting Zach Wilson. Like we could crap on it and say that was the dumbest thing possible. Yeah. But I think the nuance, the hindsight was, I mean, you can kind of understand, like you understood like what they were doing and why they did it. It wasn't like significantly scrutinized. A lot of the stuff that happened with the Diggs thing, and I'm not saying I was a part of it, but if we are just kind of evaluating the worst moves and the best moves and the nuance, it was pretty criticized from all areas. There was nice representation on both sides of it, and it's kind of crazy. A lot of stuff, bad luck with the Tank Dell injury and stuff, but in half a year, it already looks like something that, let's put it this way, if they had it to do over, they wouldn't do it.
If they had it to do over again, they'd take Brian Thomas Jr., get Kamari Lassiter in the second round, and get Bullock in the third round.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, I mean, it's not like if you say it's a bad move, it's not, there's always, it's almost like the layers of it. Like, it's not like you're saying, I think sometimes you can say, well, anyone would have done this, but this was pretty criticized for a while. So, and the other thing is, I mean, had you just been willing to give up a pick this year for Keenan Allen, then you never make that move. Now you might not end up with Bullock, who knows, with the maneuvering or whatever. But I mean, it wasn't like they were just dying to have Diggs. It was a pivot.
Yeah.
I think it kind of might have worked out because I don't know that they end up with Lassiter. So I think it could be like a blessing in disguise type situation maybe. But I mean, I definitely think it's in the discussion of the worst moves that Caserio has made. Because I don't really hold the coaching hires against him early on in the process when you have $50 million dead cap. And because I mean, the
quarterback requests a trade.
I mean, it led to Derek Stingley and it led to CJ Stroud, and you ended up clearing up cap space and setting it up to where you were kind of an appealing place for D'Amico Ryans. So there's a lot that goes into it. We'll discuss it tonight.
I have a hunch some decisions from that era are going to make the list, though.
Yeah, offensive line, probably.
Yeah,
it might be at the top.
All right, that'll do it for us here on a Friday. A little bit longer, but it was a fun one.
No, it's a good one, man. They're going to be longer, especially next week. There's going to be a lot going on
We got some
at the combine. Appreciate y'all for coming through. Subscribe, like, ride along, and always remember, whether you want to keep them or whether you want to say peace out, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together.
Eat good, sleep good, be good. We'll talk Texans again soon. Thanks for watching, everybody.